Welcome back to another episode of Inside Access Control. Very excited to have Guy Blachman. He's the founder and CEO of Carson Living. Guy, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Very excited.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. Why don't we kick it off with give a little bit of background of yourself. You got an interesting background in the company of how it was brought to life and also what you do now. And then we'll jump into some topics about the industry and how your company fits with that.
Sure. So I've been in the property management software space for the past 17 years. So I came from a little bit of a different background, not from the security or hardware business, which I think is an interesting aspect of this whole industry, how outsiders, quote unquote, are coming into it. My take from it was the residential property management resident experience. My previous company, Active Building, was a leader in the REIT resident app and experience software side. It was acquired by RealPage in 2013. RealPage is the largest property management software company. And I worked there for 3 years managing their resident-facing software. And when I left in 2017, we looked back and saw that we really created a standard in the large staffed residential building space between Active Building and our main competitor, a company called Building Link. But we saw there was a big gap in what we call the partially staffed or unstaffed buildings. They have a suboptimal living experience because visitors and deliveries are not managed. It's kind of random because there's nobody on site. So what I did is I kind of took the software experience that was so effective in the large building space and coupled it together with a virtual doorman service to bring together an experience that really transforms the way smaller or medium-sized residential buildings function. And to enable a remote doorman service to work, we had to be really smart about integrating with access control, camera, intercom systems. And we enable those features not just for our remote doorman, but also for the residents and the staff. So that's how Carson was born, which brings to my background.
Great. So yeah, very unique on that end. Now, when you look at yourself in the marketplace, can you speak to some of the key differentiators that are not only, I would say, based off of what's happening today or the past, but then also set yourself up for the future if I'm making a decision to partner with you as either an integrator or an end user, whoever it might be, that would make me know that you're the right partner for us?
Sure. That's a big aspect of our business is long-term. And when we had to pick which hardware companies to integrate with, we looked at the landscape and picked there are two main parameters. One is best in class, and two is having APIs in the cloud that we can integrate with. So when you look at those two parameters, the list got shorter. And for instance, on the access control side, we really like Brivo because it's built with an API and it's very dealer focused. Eagle Eye, their sister company, has a great cloud-based camera system, which we integrated with, which is kind of a core part of our system. And on the intercom side, we really like 2N and Comlet that are very, very established, one of the biggest players in the world on the intercom side. And then we looked at apartment door locks, which is another ecosystem. And we liked the Asabla group, the Allegiant and Salto and Kaba group. So the reason we're here long-term is we focus on hardware systems that dealers and multifamilies are already very familiar with. We don't believe in introducing new hardware systems. We're not a hardware company. So it keeps the dealers happy because this is hardware that they use and they like and is reliable. And we continuously seek new and great systems, in a sense, turning Carson into a kind of a management layer above all the hardware, tying it all together, which is what the property managers and the landlords want. They don't want to deal with 7 different hardware vendors that each have different software, and they all want that to tie into their core database, which usually is the core accounting system like RealPage or Yardi, so that And I think what's unique is we turned the core accounting system in real estate into a access credentialing system, which is I think it's a sign of our times, and an inflection point of hardware coming together with software, where essentially you can turn Yardi into a system that when a resident moves in, they automatically get credentialed and allocated a mobile access device through the app that the residents use anyway, for all their other functions. Which brings me to the second unique part of it, is that I think there's app fatigue in the industry. There's too many apps. There's an app for intercom, app for access, app for payments, website for payments, for service requests. We think it should all be in one place. And that place should have all the building communication, community, as well as the access, assigning digital keys, getting intercom calls, making payments. And that resonates really well with property managers and landlords. And we become the point of decision of which hardware to use. And because we're not a hardware company, we have more credibility in recommending what is the right hardware for that landlord.
Well, you touched on a handful of topics that we speak to about a lot. So just want to make sure, I'll summarize them and tell me if I'm off base by just repeating some of the stuff, but and more of the language that I've been using lately. But a couple things. I'm a firm believer that the operating systems of buildings are coming to play instead of siloed utilities, which sounds like what you were talking about, where it's not just a single app, but one app and all of these things sort of plug and play, and you have the hardware and software, and it creates a better experience and an overall value proposition for all the stakeholders involved. Number one was on that side. And I guess that's my main driver of what I believe the industry is looking for, and how we get past the spot solutions, if you would, where it's just about let's say convenience, but then now delivers efficiencies and operating value and a better experience overall, and maybe the realization a little bit of the industry, the end users, I think, are expecting us to be like closer to the Jetsons than we currently are now, and we're still back, at the Flintstones in a lot of ways, or maybe somewhere in between that. But we're not connected yet at the way that the consumers are looking for, and my belief is services like you're talking about, like yours, are helping to deliver that type of solution. How do you answer though? Because you tell me if otherwise, but it's never going fast as we would like, right? And then there's also a lot of installed services currently versus new construction, right? We'd like to talk about new construction a lot, but the realization is like the building that you're in, the building I'm in, these things already exist. So there's a lot of things in the way. So what is your view on what's impeding the growth for us, and what needs to happen in order to accelerate it?
So think about this. When were you? When have you last entered a hotel room with a mechanical key, with a physical key? I don't remember that for the past 15 years or 10 years.
Well, like mechanical key, I don't know if I've ever. I mean, I've had the card with the dots, that went into it.
You're young. That's why.
Yeah, but I in my, call it 20 years of work life, I have never used a key to get into a hotel room.
Okay, so I think you summarized it well. Multifamily is 20 years behind hotels. That's how I think. So multifamily today is about 1995 in hotels, where the transition from mechanical key to electronic key was kind of just starting. So it's inevitable. It's just a question of how long it's going to take. And for obviously a lot of new developments, but retrofitting the older buildings when it comes to the renovation, the switch to electronic keys is a must-have. It's absolutely fundamentally going to happen. And I think the main reason is that access control has shifted from becoming a necessary expense, a tactical necessary expense, to a critical amenity and an operational efficiency for multifamily, which means the landlord or the condo that stays in, let's say, the old 20th century with access is going to be behind both in resident lifestyle and amenities and ultimately value of their living space. So the advantages of integrating access with resident and property management software are so enormous that makes this whole thing inevitable. It's just going to take time. And the more the hardware systems, as you wrote in your last article, are integrated into the front end of resident platforms, the faster it's going to accelerate this shift. And I think it is accelerating in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I agree too. I think we're at a one of the phase changes was happening before COVID. I think it accelerates coming out of it itself. Um, and there's certain things that I think will fall off that were never meant to stick anyways. And this, what's going on right now might help realize that, and then let the ones shine through. Like, for instance, we've always been talking about frictionless and seamless. It's now more about touchless. The health aspect of our product was never, besides physical safety, wasn't necessarily a health tool. Now it's part of that. It's not just about getting the latte into your apartment and the package delivered to you. It's also about understanding more of, like, the knowns and the unknowns, and there's a whole lot that goes to it. So yeah, I agree with you that I think that is a positive that will come out of a negative in a lot of ways. And I guess sometimes we need those things to happen. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't happen on their own for a very long time. So being in the position to utilize that opportunity is good for some and probably harder for others. But I think that's okay. So let me ask you, is there anything that your company's looking for? Are you growing your dealer network, or, I'm sure you want more customers like everybody else does, but if, for those that are listening, what are you looking for?
Yeah, we are always, we sell direct and we sell through the dealer network. And the dealer network is becoming more and more important for us because we're offering a significant bundled RMR, as Steve Bentil from Prevo says. It's interesting that a dealer can not only make money monthly from cameras and doors, but now on top of it, an application layer like Carson can be an additional RMR for them. So if a dealer brings us business, we will share our revenue with the dealer, and that's working really well. And of course, we can drive a lot of hardware sales for them, which makes the hardware companies, see us as great allies, so they promote us. So we are continuously seeking forward-thinking dealers that are interested in RMR, long-term relationships with their customers, value-add services, and obviously, we're growing our sales force, our direct sales force. So people who are excited about the multifamily space and technology and access control, we'd love to speak to them. And of course, customers. I think there's two big shifts that are also driving this. It's the whole package delivery shift, which happened in the last 5 years, but was accelerated with COVID, that people are not going to stores and buying everything online. And if you live in a building that doesn't have a front desk service, and you really have to have some sort of a system that has a remote ability to open doors in a smart way, with 100% reliability. Otherwise, people just can't live in those buildings. So that's also accelerating this change. And the other change that we see as interesting is having a staffed front desk is very expensive, and it's becoming unreliable, especially again with the COVID crisis. So having a remote service team that can take care of packages and visitors in these types of buildings is becoming more and more interesting from a financial perspective, but also from an operational perspective, especially when people don't put such emphasis on having a human at the front door. They just want the services related to that to work with packages and visitors. So those are some things we're seeing that we're very excited about.
Yeah, this sort of I do like the autonomous, if you would, building in that respect, where people want, and actually tell me if I'm wrong, but it's you have different, they class the different multifamily, right? So you have different needs at each one of them versus the
Correct.
sort of peanut butter approach that has been taken, where you either have it at the high end or nothing outside of that. Now it's the ability to deliver some of these sort of features and opportunities to every market. We're at that. So if people want to find out more information and get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Should visit Carson, www.carson.live, and just send an email to hello@carson.live. I'd love to talk to
All
them.
right, well, I'll make sure we get that message out. So, Guy, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. You brought exactly what I was hoping for. It's good vision, good strategy, good organization, and excited to see the success that you guys have.
Thank you, Lee. It's a pleasure being here.